2 months ago, as I was doing bookkeeping, analyzing my cash flows and business account, I came to a painful realization. I was on the brink of bankruptcy. This means for 3 years, I have worked for nothing. Damn. You see, 3 years ago, I hatched a brilliant business idea. I had identified a market gap and realized there was a huge opportunity, not only to grow financially, but as an avenue to make a social impact, an area which I'm passionate about. It was a painful realization that despite my hard work, passion, dedication, my business was failing. For 3 years, I had poured my heart and soul in building Afrifama, but now it seems like all my efforts were in vain. I couldn't help but feel like I had hit rock bottom. But little did I know this was just the beginning of a long, bumpy road towards redemption. The future looked uncertain and bleak. Now, you might be asking yourself, how did this happen? After attending some of the best entrepreneurial programs, attracting external support in financing and advisory, the passion was there. Wasn't I supposed to be the poster boy for success in entrepreneurship? I mean, against all odds, I still managed to fail. So guys, I have a reveal. A rather unfortunate event, and that's to say, I have been scammed. And it's not your ordinary scam. This is a well calculated scam, and in the process, Afri Farmer has been humbled. That's an ordinary Kenyan term to mean we have lost almost everything. Well, this is a tale that's going to shock you. This is something that in business you would not have expected to happen. So, how do you wake up one day and you realize you have lost close to 400,000 Kenyan shilling? That's not your ordinary money, honestly. For a small business, what we call an SME, or an MSME, micro and small enterprise, that is a lot of money. I know you are wondering, how did this happen? Let me take you back in the beginning. How did this happen? You see, the art of doing business, it's a rather an intricate and complicated world. One day, someone gains trust in you, and the next day, they're actually thinking of the best way they can be able to exploit you. Now, jokes on me on this one, because ideally, these individuals found a way they could actually orchestrate a long con in the name of doing an enterprise. And it's also interesting, it's not just one individual. It's more than 5 individuals, different business entities, different locations, but how they manage to do this, it baffles me up to this moment. So one day, these enterprises, we've had a long engagement with them, and some of them, something which you also need to note, some of these people ended up even becoming my friends, and I thought I could actually trust them. Big mistake. Don't make that mistake. If you are thinking of getting into poultry farming, You should be on the lookout for that. So, you are wondering what happened. Well, we have been doing businesses for close to 8 to 9 months with these enterprises, and we didn't have ideally any problem with them when it comes to payment. But on these particular days, they decided they didn't have enough money to pay for their deposits, and they asked, as any business would, Hambre, Mesa Motugi, would you be willing to supply product on a credit to me? At that moment, I was like, well, why not? I mean, we've had businesses with them, and I asked them, when do you think you'll be able to pay back? And as any business would tell you, they said at the end of the week, you'd have your money. And to make this story short, we ended up supplying goods to different business entities who had the same issue, but rather in different situation. So if we had, for this time, let's say Mr. Mohammed, and he says this week he didn't have money, we say, well, why not? At that moment, we still had the firepower, we still had a lot of working capital to continue working. Another big mistake. And the next month we had someone else, and the next month someone else. Now, ideally, when it comes to the payment, all these clients defaulted. They started giving us stories. The next day, the next week you went to correct the payment, you first call them and they tell you, hold on, we are going to pay, but not today. Can you give me until Wednesday? And there's no alarm at all. You realize it's just any other business. Maybe they don't have the money at that point. And that will turn to another week, and a week will turn to another week, and eventually days will turn to a month, and that's when you start to realize, wait a moment, some of these things are not adding up, and the business would start to feel the pressure. You see, for that month it wasn't huge. So ideally you thought, well, they would pay. Now it turns to 2 months and no payment was coming in. Is when it all kicked in. We have been scammed. So someone might be asking, what kind of measures did you guys take to try to recover? I'll tell you this, there are no measures we have not taken in this world. We've tried to reason with some of these clients. We've tried to visit their premises. We've even tried to get some external help. And ideally, nothing seems to work. One thing I've learned is most of the entrepreneurs, and I stand to be corrected, are actually greedy. That means most of these clients, even if they might have had a fair share of troubles, most of them, they are just greedy. That means they just want to earn what you make and what they make, and they'll be happy. I've also learned that most of them, they are very confident and very happy to see your business fail while theirs are just thriving. And they'll use any excuse, they'll use any con game in their sleeve just to make sure they don't pay you. So ideally, by the moment you're watching this, it have taken us close to 2 to 3 months trying to correct some of the arrears these individuals have owed the company. And you can imagine most of them will have even the gut of telling you, I'll be able to sort you next week part 1, which stands out to many months. It's not because they don't understand the intricacies of running a small business, but they rather choose to ignore that. They rather choose not to even care about the entrepreneurs themselves who have worked so hard to be able to raise such kind of financing, to be able to have such kind of business. And it's at this moment the reason why we do this kind of a vlog. So if you are an aspiring poultry farmer, a manufacturer, so you can be able to know the kind of the world you'll be getting yourself into. For me, don't trust anyone, no matter who they say they are, no matter the kind of business you've had dealings with them. Don't. Because the moment you trust them, then they will be able to show their true self. Unfortunately, we couldn't be able to involve the police and the legal system. And this was based on a good advice by a good friend of mine who happens to be a lawyer. And there were a couple of caveats. So obviously, if you are supposed to go to that lengthy way, then most likely you'll never even see your money back. Let's go to the farm where we used to keep our birds. And this might surprise you because the aftermath of losing such a huge sum of money, you can only guess that we don't have a thriving farm no more. There's emptiness, there's sadness, and yeah, so let's go and I'll give you a tour to see what happens when a business collapses or when a business goes bankrupt. I know some of the clients are watching this vlog and they have always watched it. I want them to see the kind of mess. Sometimes when you become too greedy, you create to other small businesses out there. Let's get to what used to be an Afrifama farm. So it's quite sad. Once a thriving farm has been reduced to this empty hole you can see. Save for the crows crying a close outside. This is where we are at Afri Farm. You can imagine how sad it is for me to every day come and see this, and also save for the environment, which is, well, a bit better outside, but yet again, every day you come in, this is what you face. Not the sounds of the birds, not the sounds of maturing chicks. It's a sound of emptiness. As an entrepreneur, these are some of the things, if someone told you when you're starting a business you're going to face, you will not have believed. So you can be able to see from that further end, it's quite a big space because it can host close to 1,200 birds. That's 1,000 plus. And on those further end is where we do have some of the materials we have been using for brooding, and they have all been washed up, and we have been waiting and waiting, and nothing seems to come forth. We have the drinkers, we have the feeders, we have the weigh scale, and a bit of the pot. Well, on this other end is what we usually use for brooding day-old chicks. This is what we make the houses. And outside, well, at least they didn't go away with the tanks. But guys, this is what has remained of once a thriving farm, Afrifama. Now, at this point, I know you're wondering, will this farm ever rise again? It's a question I've been asked myself so many times. At this time, as an entrepreneur, I feel tired, I feel worn out, I feel disappointed, and I've gone through the pain you can all imagine that goes on as of being a founder. You know, watching and seeing something you're passionate about, building it, and seeing it brought down to its knees. I've worked so hard for the last 2 years to be able to achieve some of these feats we are seeing today. And other than just me, I've had my 2 good friends contributing at least something to be able to see and to reach the level I have. And to wake up one day and you realize you're living in a nightmare. It's another nightmare by itself as being an entrepreneur. So ideally, this is where they say it gives you another dimension of entrepreneurship, which you might not have thought existed, and that's on it's mental. I mean, I'll be lying to say it's easy, but it's not. It's very challenging, it's very difficult, and sometimes even to see the next day you're just grateful because that's all you have. So that is it, and those are the intricacies of being a startup founder. Sometimes you don't get to see the success. Sometimes it's the failure you see. And most of us, trust me, we're not usually prepared for the failure element because we work so hard to achieve success. So at this moment, you might be asking yourself, are you guys giving up on these businesses? No, we are not. We are still in discussions with them. But ideally, no matter the amount of discussions you have, no matter the amount of phone calls, no matter the amount of even agreements you draft, let alone I've come just to learn these people, these individuals, these so-called business people, they actually don't honor them. And ideally, as you can be able to see, then it just affects the whole business or your whole startup because at the end of the day, they don't honor it. We'll still try to push, we'll still try to do our level best, but most of these credits have just gone to bad credits, and it's just bad for business. And yeah, that's what it is. So if you are thinking of going to business, then these are some of the things you definitely need to be prepared about. At this moment, I know you have a lot of questions, And probably is what do you think is going to happen next? So ideally, as an entrepreneur, you cannot afford to give up, because if you give up in your startup, then that's the end. However, sometimes you are allowed, and you can always take some time off. So ideally, it's unfortunate. Afri Farmer is taking time off. We will not be producing for this month, which again is one of the difficulties a month not to produce, basing the fact is a festive holiday, that's December. And I remember sometime back last year, we were able to outsell almost close to 700 birds. So that will be zero revenue for us. We did not do production last month, and ideally it's much really effective, but that's what's going to happen. So most of these clients ended up defaulting on payments, which ran by close to 2 to 3 months, and we had to do what most businesses do. If you fail to get that kind of amount, sometimes you are forced to put those accounts on default, and some of them just become just bad for business. And this has really affected us, because ideally for me, to operate, I'll definitely need close to 100 to 150 per single cycle. So ideally, if you are not in a position to raise this amount, it means your business, it's almost impossible. And that's what happened. You see, when we were offering that, we were in a better position, but now we are not in that better position no more. So it's they really messed us big time, and it's really affected the business. Honestly, they brought us to our knees, and at some point I usually say we'll need a real miracle to be able to go back to where we are at this moment. I know most of you, if you're watching this vlog, you're asking yourself, will Afrifama go back again to its old glory? Will you be able to find your own roots? Will you be able to bounce back? Honestly, losing such a huge sum in a business, it can be detrimental, and can cause you such a huge setback, not only in business, it also affect your personal life. Because honestly, if you've been dependent on your business, then you're being forced to stretch. And if there are other people who have been depending on your business, they have also been forced to stretch out. And one of those is my good manager, that's Bwana Kashindo. I feel really disappointed and really sorry, because ideally he was not just depending on this business, but his own family has been depending for so many months, close to 14 months since we started. But at least I was able to find something for him to be able to, to work out for the time being. Well, for the others, is unfortunate. I couldn't be able to find a good solution. And the big one, it's me. Most of you know that I've been in business for close to 1 year, whereby it's been my full-time gig. And honestly, when it collapses, it means you're left with zero coin, or literally, your bank balance does not exist. So ideally, it will say it's a very difficult moment to be an entrepreneur at this moment. So you obviously need to look out for alternative ways. And for me, it's not just letting go of being an entrepreneur, because Ideally, that's not something I would ever do, but it's rather to look for means to survive, because at the end of the day you'll have to pay for your bills, for your survival and everything. And that's when it just forced me to a little bit to go back to my old world. And so at the moment I'm other than just working as an entrepreneur, finding solution for Afrifama to come back afloat is I'm working as a consultant. This is whereby I'm providing business advisory. I know it sounds like a bit unorthodox, whereby someone would ask, how would you advise someone to be successful, and yet you yourself, your brand has failed? I'll tell you one thing. The best consultant are actually people who have had businesses, who have had failures, and who have had successes. And I've been fortunate enough to at least provide a few hours a week of advisory, and hopefully I can also help those entrepreneurs not to fall to some of the pitfalls I've come across. And I also do a bit of volunteerism. So it's whereby, if most of you have been following me on my usual blog, Facebook and LinkedIn, you know a brand known as Kukuza. These are social enterprise whereby we tend to provide coaching session to the youth in my locality. So since I'm not like quite busy at the moment, I do work with them close to 2 days a week, and whereby I can be able to offer them business advisory in terms of the skills. How do they come up with business ideas, and how they can actually build and scale these businesses. And I also now create content more often, and I'm also learning a little bit of how do you go about editing, how do you go about creating awesome vlogs. And I'm also looking for investment, so I'm doing so much thing at the same time, and that's where we are at the moment. So cycling back, will Afrifama thrive again? Honestly, I'm just hopeful, and I have belief it will, but I don't know the amount of time it's going to take. But I just hope, with the kind of hard work, with the kind of structures, with the kind of machineries we've had to invest on, at least very soon we should be able to go back to our feet and continue with some of our social missions, continue with some of our transformations, and in the long make an impact to the society. So that's my tale, and I hope this has been an eye-opening to most of you who have been wondering what has been going on with Afrifama, what's not adding up. So yeah, that's what happened. It's quite unfortunate. And hey, if you like this kind of vlog, if you like what I've been able to create, the best way you can support us is hit that notification bell, hit that subscription button, and you can give us a like if you'd like to know more about what happened with Afrifama and what kind of strategies I'm going to use to see if I can go back to once thriving farm. So we've had the whole tale of what happened. I hope we'll see the end of it, and I would like to wish everyone happy holidays, and thank you for supporting us and walking us through the journey. I hope we'll definitely have a fruitful year ahead for us. There's just so much that's happening, so ideally it's also a good break, just to to see what happens and what goes on. So I guess this is the end. So from Afri Farmer, it's bye bye for me. See you in the next one.